Well, hello. I am here at Dirt Candy with Chef Amanda Cohen. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, thank you so much for coming down.
Yeah, well, I'm so excited to be here because Amanda just wrote an awesome cookbook called Dirt Candy. And the cool thing about it is it's sort of like a graphic novel, comic book cookbook, which is a very new form, right? I mean, does that exist?
I think this is the first. It's the first time it's ever been done. It's the first time anybody's ever taken a chance on this idea. I know there's been a couple of people who've wanted to do it before, but it hasn't, nobody's sort of like given it the green light, and we just pushed really hard.
So tell me how you had the idea for it. How did it even come up in your brain to do a would you call it a graphic novel cookbook?
Yeah,
okay.
graphic novel cookbook,
graphic
for sure.
Novel cookbook.
Well, the story goes, we had been approached a lot about writing a cookbook after the first year, and it's not something I wanted to do. I really actually didn't believe in it. I had worked in a ton of restaurants where the owners and the chefs sort of like 8 months into it were like, we're writing our cookbook. So I was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
The restaurant hadn't been open long enough. We hadn't established ourselves long enough. And I just felt like I would be doing a great disservice to the restaurant. But people just kept asking and asking us. So at one point I was like, I can't ignore them. And I was having a big fight with Grady, who's my co-author on the book, and also my husband.
Right.
And we were talking about what we should do and what we could do. And at one point, like, literally, he's screaming at me across the street,
oh my God,
you should just write a comic book that's a cookbook. And, like, we stopped. The world stopped. Traffic stopped. And we were both like, that's it.
But were you guys comic book fans before that? Or?
Grady's a big comic book fan, and I certainly know some of them. I would not say I'm an expert in this world, so don't ask me any hard questions about them.
Oh, no, I'm not a comic book, junkie, but I really do like comics, you know? Yeah.
It's a great form to, really get a lot of information into a small amount of space. And so he said that, and we sort of had this vision of what the cookbook could look like. And it was perfect. It was everything we wanted to do. It would be true to the restaurant. We could make it really fun, and it would be different.
But what I like so much about it is that, as I'm reading it, it's like it has lots of whimsical, fun storytelling, and we'll go into some of that. You talk about being on Iron Chef and your contractor who built your restaurant, all that stuff. But also, just the way it illustrates how to, chop or, how to, sweat something or how to saute something. It really does it very visually, and you can point out things
that you couldn't.
Right, you couldn't point.
There's so much you can get into one little panel.
Right, I'm trying to find an example. I think it's right after your Iron Chef stuff. But yeah, I mean, so for example, all right, I'm not going to be able to find it. Okay, reducing. So it shows you, it illustrates how to do a reduction. Okay, this is not showing up at all. I'm so bad. Okay, there you go. So you see, it has all the steps, but little boxes that describe it. And it's great. So can you talk about, when you're thinking of, so when you're writing this cookbook, are you, thinking in panels, and you're thinking of, speech balloons, or?
I think Grady was. I was much more I'm just going to do the recipe part of it, and Grady wrote a lot of the script. But yeah, he said it's sort of like the same way you would write a script, right? So it's the same thing as having all that screen board. He had these huge panel boards that he was working on, and the whole dialogue was written kind of in thought bubbles. And
so you guys collaborated a lot on this.
Grady and Ryan, who's the artist, and I worked for months and months, every day, going back and forth.
Was it difficult to turn off the work mode and go back to marriage mode? And
Yes.
Because I think it's hard to work with the person that you're married to or in a relationship with.
We never would have chosen this ever. And we're lucky we're still married. That's the best we can say about it. We're not sure we're going to do another.
Because you, like most chefs, having cooked with you and spent time with you, are probably something of a control freak, I would imagine.
Just a little.
Well, you have to be. I mean, because if you care enough to put a single fennel pretzel on top of your new fennel soup, it's then you care about every little detail, and it's you want to control that. So it must be hard to give up some of that control.
Yes, and Grady's as big a control freak as I am. And so the two of us butted heads a lot, and first we were like, oh, we'll get to spend so much more time together. And then we were like, oh, we shouldn't ever spend this much time together.
We're going to kill each other. No, I want to know, okay, so we'll go into lots of different things, but okay, so one thing that's interesting about the book is you really don't pull punches in terms of the judges that judged you on Iron Chef or the contractor who built your restaurant. She doesn't necessarily depict them in the most flattering light.
Right. Well, we wanted to be honest to our experience. We weren't trying to be mean to anybody, but this was definitely our experience, and one thing we started out to do with the restaurant was to be really honest with how restaurants
I
work.
love that you did that. But I mean, were you worried about like the consequences of all that?
No, I mean, we changed the names for the contractor.
Okay, right.
And we'd already talked about them on the blog. And
I see. So this is already kind of out there.
Kind of out there. And then with the Iron Chef judges, you know, this was just my experience. And so we tried to be as nice as possible, but I can't deny that this is how I felt that day.
What about like the detail? I mean, you have some funny details in here from Iron Chef where it's like, you know, doing the same take over and over again. Like, are you going to get sued for millions of dollars now?
I'm not going to get sued. We had that all approved. It would everything that we said, we had already written pieces about it on the blog, and they didn't necessarily make it, but it went through the Food Network lawyers. I want everybody to know that.
Okay, so you're not going to get like attacked. Sorry, I have like this crazy thing going on my computer. I think I'm just turn that off. But yeah, because I was worried for you because it's like you have to sign all these non-disclosure things. Okay,
yes, I don't owe them any money. We went through that also with Clarkson Potter's lawyers. Everything was approved.
You're okay.
I'm okay.
So okay, in this book, how many recipes are in this book?
Apparently there's 112.
Apparently.
That's what somebody just counted.
You don't know how many
recipes. We only owed them 100.
Okay, so 112 recipes. And now, what was your process like taking these recipes that you do in the kitchen every day here and then making it accessible or putting it in a format where people could do it at home?
Well, what we did was we chose somebody who couldn't cook at the start. And we said, we want you to recipe test every single one of these recipes. And you actually know her because she was our server. She was the first server you had. It was Kristen.
Oh, yeah.
And so we asked her if she would test the recipes. And we made them smaller. We thought we did because at some point she was like, I just made 12 gallons of soup. I don't think you've reduced this recipe enough.
Right.
I was like, fair enough. So she had really no idea what she was doing. And then she took the recipes and she made them and she came back and she was like, are you crazy? Like, what is wrong with you? You have to fix this. So we fixed it again. Okay. And we went back a lot of back and forth with the recipes so that they could be made at home. They might be complicated. There's definitely a lot of components, but each sort of individual recipe is sort of simple enough.
And you have them as recipes. I mean, when I cooked with you for my book, it seems like you keep a recipe for like the carrots. And
we try.
Right. But so is it for like when people are cooking your stuff here, they can follow yours?
Yes,
so that's really interesting.
But you write them very differently in a kitchen. So we have a shorthand that really basically has no instructions. It's just the ingredients and the amount. And then we give it to, you know, let's say Kyle in the kitchen, and he understands right away what to do. So to put it into, you know, step 1, step 2, step 3, and make it so much simpler that you could follow it at home. You know?
Are there ingredients that you... I mean, I know that like when I was here, like, I mean, I see right there you have like dehydrated powders. And, I mean, were there things you couldn't include in these recipes because you were like, there's no way anybody's going to make? There
was a couple of things that we decided not to include, but for the most part, we figured out how to include them. So, you know, we do a lot of dehydrating here, and we assumed that most people wouldn't have a dehydrator, so we figured out how to do it in the oven.
Right. So people can make their own powders, and that's really interesting. Now, were you a big home cook, like, growing up? Like, did you, when you were a kid, like, were you, like, reading cookbooks and cooking? Like, you know? I
loved cookbooks. I loved Gourmet Magazine. I spent my childhood reading them.
What were your favorite cookbooks growing up?
Probably like Betty Crocker.
Oh,
but I really liked it.
Really simple ones.
The really simple, the kid one, the party one. That was like
that
my
favorite. First cookbook, yeah.
I know, it's good, and the little cupcakes and all the things you could do for it. I always wanted a birthday party like that. Then there was a couple of we definitely had the joy of cooking, and we had some Julia Child.
Where did you grow up?
Toronto.
Toronto, okay.
In Ottawa.
Gotcha.
And I cooked a lot for my family, so that definitely helped all this. And it was something I liked.
So how did you transition from cooking at home for your family to like restaurant world and becoming like a restaurant chef?
After I graduated college, I moved to Hong Kong for a year and a half or so. And while I was there, I was doing a whole like myriad of jobs that, you know, like now looking back on it's pretty funny. I taught English, I taught French, I worked in an insurance company.
Wow.
We did all these weird jobs, and what we discovered there was that I was bad at a lot of those jobs, but I loved to travel. I know this isn't the story takes a while.
Okay.
So then
you probably told it before.
We ended up moving to LA, and while I was in LA, I didn't want to do any of those jobs again. And I was sort of really floundering, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. All I knew I wanted to do with my life was travel. And so all of a sudden I was like, well, I should go to cooking school, and I'll get a skill.
Okay.
And I'll be able to travel with that skill. So I went to cooking school. I went to to New York City. There's a school called the Natural Gourmet. I loved it. I started working here. I realized this is exactly what I wanted to do, and I haven't traveled again.
Wow.
So the whole
And was it difficult for you to make that transition from like home cook to restaurant style, like trained? I mean, did you like?
No,
did you
I
like
loved
all
it.
that? Yeah, yeah.
I loved it so much more. And what I really realized is that I hate cooking at home, and I love cooking in restaurants. So you will not find me cooking at home ever.
Oh, interesting.
It's so much
But
better.
can you go back into the mindset, like having written this cookbook now for home cooks? Like when you think about what home cooks do versus what you do here, is it hard for you to get back into the headspace of someone who like comes home from work and has like kids screaming? You know, it's like
And then with our editors, they were like, people aren't going to do this at home.
Right.
Like, well, why wouldn't they spend 12 hours making a dish? But that's why we broke it down. So that really how we felt about the book was that if we broke down the recipes enough, you don't necessarily have to make every single component of a dish, but you could pick and choose, and you would get some ideas of how to, make the dish.
Right. So you can make like asparagus paella, but you don't have to probably put the crisp on top.
Exactly. You make the broth and the rice itself, and you're done.
Isn't that cool how it's all illustrated like this? I mean, this is like, I think this is an important cookbook. Because it's like you really like bridge, you kind of change the form of cookbooks. Every cookbook is so familiar now.
You don't have to have a recipe that tells you that, I learned this at the knee of my grandmother and here's a gorgeous picture of it.
Right, exactly.
You can do so much more.
Not that there's anything wrong with gorgeous pictures in case you want to buy a new book called Secrets of the Best Chefs.
It's a great cookbook.
Featuring Amanda Cohen as one of the great chefs, or best chefs. Sorry, I should know the own title of my cookbook.
You should.
Okay, so what are your favorite recipes in this book? Radish ravioli?
Radish ravioli is quite good. We've actually never had that on the menu here. So I would say definitely try that if you come to Dirt Candy.
Or what would you tell people to do first? Maybe that's a better question.
I think the easiest one, the most basic, is actually the carrot risotto.
Carrot risotto, yeah.
So we start with carrot juice and we make a regular risotto and we incorporate the carrot juice into it. And with sort of that one simple step, you end up with this bright orange carrot risotto that tastes like carrots. And if you want to go the extra step, you can make the carrot dumplings. And then one thing that sort of teaches you, because you get this technique out of it, that, if I put the vegetable juice into the dish, I can really change it. So you can make beet risotto or chard risotto.
I forgot to bring up a very important thing about Amanda Cohen, which is that she cooks mostly or exclusively vegetarian food. I feel like we didn't even say that. Like it's like the restaurant's called.
Least important.
I know it's called Dirt Candy because it's like vegetables are the candy of dirt.
Exactly.
So, and one of the funny things you said when I cooked with you is sort of like vegetables need a lot of help.
They do.
Yeah. So, I mean, would you say this? Do you think there's a misconception that vegetarian food is health food?
Yes, definitely.
Right.
We're trying to change that. Vegetarian food can be very healthy, and lots of restaurants do exceptionally healthy food with vegetables and vegetarian food. That's not what our goal is, and I think that's not sort of what the idea is now in restaurants with vegetables. You see they're coming a lot more to the forefront. It's just about making them taste really good. And that might mean using more olive oil or more salt or butter or cream than you would have seen.
This is not a health food restaurant.
It's not, but it's delicious.
It is. It's absolutely delicious. So, okay, I wanted to ask you more about Iron Chef because that's in here, and it's a great story in here of like, having to do multiple takes, and then like the judges then riding an elevator afterwards and getting stuck in the elevator. But do you look back on that, and are you still glad that you did it? I'm
so glad. It was so much fun, and I felt at the time that it really established us as a restaurant. We'd sort of fought when we opened, I feel, with the media's perception with us and the general public's perception of us that we were a vegetarian restaurant and vegetarian restaurants didn't count and there wasn't real food because we weren't serving pork. And I feel that when the Food Network came to us and asked us to do it, it was like, okay, people actually think that vegetarian food can be real. And people do like it.
So you were taking it seriously. It wasn't like it was just like a PR opportunity to like show up on TV. And
we were terrified. We thought maybe we could win, sort of. And then halfway through, we were like, we're never.
Because you went up against Morimoto. He's sort of like the biggest one, right?
Yes, and he's like the elder and he's established and he did the original Iron Chef. And you go and you film the show, and actually the hardest thing that they don't tell you is that the Iron Chef team knows exactly where everything is, and so they don't have to look for anything.
Are you allowed to say this stuff? I don't want to get sued either.
No, it's fine. I mean, if you think it through, of course they know where everything is. They've been filming it for years. So you go and you've been in the kitchen reeling before it films for like an hour or so, if even that much. And then lights go on and, they start filming and all of a sudden you're like, where's the stove? Like, where's
they don't give you like a tour?
They do give you a tour, but, like your mind goes blank. 15 cameras are on you and you're like, where's a pot? Where's a pan?
That's so interesting. And do you get to bring your own ingredients too?
Nope, they actually buy everything for you.
Okay.
There's.
But that's not helpful to you when you have like all your powders
I
and
know.
oils, so you had to like make that there.
It's only what you can make in an hour.
Oh wow.
So it totally changes our style of cooking is what you can do in that 1 hour.
Amanda, as you were talking about like public perception and all that stuff, I was thinking that you've done. What's fun about Amanda is that she has a great blog, and you'll just like rip into people, into critics, into things. What's been like your most scandalous or like most outrageous or biggest response to like? I'm trying to remember because I know that you did like one about the New Yorker, right? When they came
Yeah,
here.
the New Yorker and the New York Times. I don't think I've been forgiven for my review of the reviews yet.
Yes, reviews, which is great. Good for you.
I just wanted to let people know what it felt like to be reviewed, and sometimes it doesn't feel that good.
But I think your honesty is what makes you great. I mean, it's such like a PR-driven world, this like food world, and everyone has to like be friendly to everybody, and it's great. You're just sort of like tell it like it is.
Tell it like it is, and then people actually, I think, over time have started enjoying our honesty.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm gonna leave here today, and she's gonna do a blog post about this idiot who came over with a video, like a webcam.
Totally, we're secretly filming this.
Yeah. Okay. What were you gonna say though? I interrupted you.
We also did a couple of pieces on women chefs.
Oh right, we should talk about that too. Is that like a whole can of worms? Do you want to save that for another?
No, I mean we can. I feel like women chefs don't get the respect that they deserve.
Sure.
That's it in a nutshell, and you see it all the time. So we've talked a lot about that on the blog, and that sometimes has gotten a lot of great responses, and sometimes I've gotten a hate mail where I'm like, okay, thank you.
Well, it's so interesting because this book I did, I cooked with 50 chefs, half the chefs are women, and like somebody was complimenting me on that. They're like, I think it's wonderful you chose like half female. I mean, that says a lot. And I was like, I just really like these chefs, but it is an interesting sort of, because you feel like it's still pretty uneven in terms of how many chefs there are that are women, or...
No, I think there actually are a lot of women chefs. I just think that they don't get the attention that the male chefs get.
Well, I guess the real question is will there be, or why isn't there a 4-star female chef?
Well, yes, exactly. I think there actually are lots of women who are cooking at a 4-star level.
Like who?
I think Anita Lowe.
I think so too. Yeah.
I just had an amazing meal there.
At Anissa.
Yeah.
And actually I did a video like this with her and Charlotte Druckmann.
Exactly.
Yeah, where we talked about this. But I think that... So do you think it's just opportunities aren't there, or it's the culture of the kitchen in those 4-star restaurants that don't allow advancement for female chefs? Or
well, I mean, it is a longer discussion. I think it has to do also somewhat with what women want, and women often sort of leave for a bit to have a family, and they come back, and it's harder to find your place in the kitchen. But I definitely feel that the media has a responsibility, and they haven't followed through on it with promoting women chefs and searching them out. And you see a lot of sort of competitions and, best new chef or, 10 greatest chefs in, the U.S. or all those competitions, and very few of them are women.
Interesting.
And a lot of the sort of PR about it is, well, we've looked and we haven't been able to find them, and the reality is they're there and you haven't looked, but because you're looking through this sort of narrow field of, I want a 4-star French experience versus maybe some amazing ethnic cuisine.
Right.
Then you're not going to find them. And that's actually an even bigger discussion because it's not just about women, it also has to do, I think, with a lot of ethnicities.
It's interesting because for me, like the reason, my favorite chefs are women and my favorite cookbook authors are women. But they are, and I was thinking a lot about that, and I think like for me, like a lot of the men, like the male chefs that I've met, it's like there's certainly kind of like machismo and certain like need to prove, like whereas like with a lot of women, maybe this is sexist, I don't know, it's a little more nurturing, or it's a little bit more. I mean, you're not like that. You're not like a super like nurturing.
I'm not.
Like sit in my lap and I'll feed you like a
That's so
but
true.
on the flip side, you're very ambitious. But at the same, but there's like a sense of like when I walked in here, Amanda fed me a pretzel. The idea of like feeding others, I don't know, like taking care of people. Maybe this is very sexist.
No,
what I'm saying.
I think it does exist, and I think as women we tend to create that environment more, and it's sort of the environment of this kitchen. It's small. There's a small crew. By the time you leave, you'll know everybody's name. It's pretty relaxed here, and I think you find that in a lot of female kitchens or female-driven kitchens. I think one of the other reasons is that what women don't get is necessarily big investors. And so a lot of the sort of women chefs who I know, they own their own restaurant, which is very different than the male chefs, so they don't have bosses necessarily. They have a much sort of smaller team. They might have a couple of restaurants, but it's still not, they don't have 10,000 employees. And which is great, but at the same time, because they don't have that big investment behind them, then you don't get that push to be a 4-star restaurant.
Right.
Tiny little mom and restaurant isn't necessarily going to get 4 stars, but a giant, $5 million restaurant is more likely to.
I also wonder if like the whole Gordon Ramsay model of like the screaming, shouting, like misery-inducing chef somehow is still attractive to like audiences or like customers in a way that like a woman acting like that is not. It's sort of like
definitely,
yeah,
definitely. And I think one of the funny things that we see here is people come up to the kitchen and thank us all the time, and I'll be standing there, and sometimes I have a male chef with me, and sometimes I have a female chef, and if there is a male chef in the kitchen, they instantly actually think he's the chef.
Wow.
They'll be like, thank you, chef.
That's
really
interesting.
I'm the dishwasher, but thanks.
I was going to thank the chef, actually, after I was done with this interview, but
Go ahead.
okay, yeah. Okay, well, Amanda, this is so exciting. Do you have anything else you'd like to say about your book, Dirt Candy?
No, just please buy it.
Is it on? It's like out in stores now,
It's
right?
out in stores. You can buy it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and you can also buy it from our website, where I will personally sign it.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Well, Amanda, congratulations on your awesome book. I can't wait to cook from it. And I'll be eating here as a customer sometime soon.
Well, we look forward to having you again. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye, everyone.